Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Spots on behalf of the Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce. This is the Dalles Chamber's Community Affairs for Thursday, November 20th. And our guests this morning are Misa Olsen and Caleb Dubois from Department of Human Services Vocational Rehabilitation. And before I turn it over to Misa and Caleb, we're going to go around the table here and talk about organizational updates. So I'm going to start with Commissioner Brady in my upper left-hand corner.
Good morning, Phil Brady, Wasco County Commissioner. I'm in Eugene today, this week with the Oregon Association of Counties, AOC, Association of Oregon Counties, AOC. It's having our annual convention, and typical, we've had lots of panels, workshops. And the governor spoke to us briefly yesterday in general terms, but she mentioned that the state budget forecast was going to be coming out in 15 minutes. Said so later in the afternoon we got word of that. It's good news, not great news, but good news that we were looking at a $373 million budget deficit, and now it's shrunk. That deficit has shrunk down to $63 million in the two-year budget cycle that'll end in 2027. And I'm reading this, you can see it's in large part because the state received adjusted corporate income tax receipts from several large Oregon corporations. So the big tech companies that have been fueling Oregon's economy had bigger projected tax income, so that's boosted our revenue. I don't know what that means, how that will spell out, but it's definitely better than it could be. On the negative side, and I'm reluctant to do this given that our speakers are health and our human services, we Jimmy Jones, who's the director of Mid-Willamette, um, gave a update of the government is having, well, the way I'm thinking about it, we were looking at for human services, this rehab kinds of things, um, um, budget cuts, but now they're looking at policy changes. And the big one it changes is going from what we're calling housing first. Think of the annex, get people in shelter and then work on their work skills and getting them back on their feet. Returning to a treatment first model, which is saying, okay, no, first you get all the treatment, get job ready, and then you can get housing. So I'm very, very upset about this. I don't think there's much we can do except brace ourselves because we were doing things that were working, and now we're going to be turning toward policies that we know don't work. So I'll leave it there. And if our guests have different understanding what's going on, that'd be good news for me to hear.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Mix of news there. And yeah, I'll refrain from comment, I guess. But
Yeah.
Trish Neal.
Good morning. I'm Trish Neal with Legal Shield. I am still looking for people to be my boots on the ground there in the Dalles, and I'll post my information in the chat and a link to the Chamber's jobs page. And I am a member of the Chamber.
Thank you, Trish. Mike Wacker.
Um, Fort Dalles Museum closed on the 15th. I think we open in March, so we get a couple months off to do things to fix things up a little bit. And with Kiwanis, we're sponsoring 3 families. We work with, oh gosh, whoops. Anyhow, we sponsor 3 families, so we do shopping and well, the Salvation Army. We work with the Salvation Army. Saturday, we'll be giving Santa sleigh rides in conjunction with the 2 holiday sales at the Senior Center and at St. Peter's. And then, of course, for decades, we've lined up the parades. So we'll be doing that. the Starlight Parade, well, a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
And hopefully there will be decent weather.
Let's hope for that. And let's see, the Starlight Parade sign-up deadline is tomorrow, I believe, on that 36th annual. We'll go into more detail on that toward the end of the meeting with chamber updates. Thank you, Mike. Corliss Marsh.
Morning, everyone. Corliss Marsh. I'm with Habitat for Humanity in the library and the senior center. But coming up at the senior center this Saturday is their big bazaar. So come on down, and I'm making pot of soup, and we'll have soup for lunch. So 9 to 2 this Saturday at the senior center.
All right. Thank you, Corliss. And please feel free to put information, all of you, in the chat box on these events as we go along. Mr. Roger Nichols.
Thank you, roving reporter that works for both radio and newspaper. Last night I attended a meeting of the Energy Facility Site Selection Council of Washington. They met in White Salmon, and this was the third of 3 information sessions having to do with the proposed under the Columbia River transmission line from Big Eddy substation to west of Portland, on the other side of Portland, with a PGE hookup. The idea being there's a really difficult time, constriction in getting power from the east, where all of these solar power projects and wind projects are, to where the population centers are. This would let them hook into the north-south intertie that goes all the way up to Seattle and all the way down to Southern California, and allow that to happen. Not surprisingly, most of the comments by the public were in opposition, from the tribes, from the Friends of the Columbia Gorge, and from Columbia Riverkeeper. In favor of that were some folks from various unions that would gain jobs for that. It's a 3.5-year project, $1.5 billion. A lot more details, and I'll have stories about it in the newspaper. Thanks.
Cascades Project. Thank you, Roger. That's been plugging along. Okay, that's good. Good update, sir. Thank you. Scott McKay.
Good morning, everyone. Scott McKay, a current volunteer for Circles of Care. I retired from Circles of Care at the end of August, and where there is not a person to replace me yet, so we're kind of in hiatus, but our volunteers are continuing to support the older adults they've been matched with, and we're continuing to work within the community. Thank you.
Scott, do people reach out to you if there are candidates for that position, or how does that work?
Actually, we have an excellent candidate who's been interviewed, and I think the parent organization, Age Plus, is deciding if they have the financial resources to continue the program.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a, find the resources to do it. They're hoping someone in the community would step up and fund it. It's about a $35,000 program, but things are tight these days, and they haven't found anyone. So,
thank you, Scott. Dave Peters.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, Mid-Columbia Housing Authority. We are continuing to work on the project Mariposa Village in Hood River. I think it's 130 something apartments. Actually, I know it's 130 something apartments. And then we also have all the funding needed and starting construction on the project over at Watonka, where DeHart's Market is or was. And we have applications in for down payment assistance in Washington that we'll know in about a month. And also, the bigger news might be we have a big funding package applied for same times that would be for developing community land trust in Carson of 14 homes. So, and also Karen, my boss Karen Long, will be here in 3 weeks to give a fuller background on all the projects that Columbia Cascade Housing and Mid-Columbia Housing Authority is doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. I think on the 11th, I believe Karen Long will be on there. Great. Thank you. Do you have a projected groundbreaking date on the DeHarts, or is that?
I think Karen has said something like August is July or August is the expected starting time, but I don't know when that for sure. Phil might know. He's on the Housing Authority board.
Okay, that's out on Chenoweth Loop, close to Mid-Columbia Economic Development District, the transit center out there. Great, thank you. Briefly, first off, Courtney, I believe you're joining our guests for vocational rehab. So I'll let you introduce yourself, and we'll turn it over to the three of you in just a second. I'll put on a couple of other hats, though. As with Roger, I'm also a roving reporter now, covering the Hood River Bridge. And this week we had some exciting news. The long-awaited, we've been waiting 4 years for this, environmental impact statement and record of decision came down, allowing construction to go forward on the bridge. We're looking at a 2027 start date for replacement of the Hood River Bridge. Completion 2031. We have to get several $100 million of federal funding there still, but those requests are in and they seem to be moving forward, believe it or not. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And then one other hat, I'm on the board of One Community Health. The board is starting a foundation to coincide with the 40th anniversary of One Community Health. Some of you may remember it as La Clínica del Cariño. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to vocational rehab. And Misa, I'll turn it over to you. You are a co-host, and I'm happy to make Courtney and Caleb co-hosts as well. I think I can do that.
No, Courtney doesn't need to be.
Okay.
She's like, no, don't make me co-host.
All right. It's probably best that I don't screw anything up. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to leave you as co-host, Caleb, if that's okay with you. And Misa, you said it's okay for people to pop in with questions during the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. And I'll keep an eye on the chat box.
Okay.
Courtney.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and share my slides.
Great. Misa, take it away. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me know if you can see it.
Slides are coming in.
Okay, perfect. Sometimes Zoom is kind of spicy for me. So Caleb, do you want to start with your intro?
Yeah, sure thing. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. My name's Caleb Dubois, and I'm the vocational rehabilitation counselor based in the Dalles and Wasco County. So we're kind of a three-person team out here in the Gorge, myself, and then my co-counselor, Chris Howell, who's based in Hood River. And then we're lucky enough to have Misa come in and drop on us time to time. And yeah, but we do have two people who are based here in the Gorge. So just here today, thank you for having us. I'm a little bit new to the Gorge myself, been here about 2 years, but grew up out in Eastern Oregon, so have a good understanding of how things work out here and yeah, what life is like. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get into it, huh, Misa?
Yeah, and I'll just do a little intro about myself. I work for vocational rehabilitation as well, but my role is a little different from Caleb's. I work on the workforce and business team. And so what that means is, I have two clients. I serve Caleb and his clients, but I also serve local business. And I try to be kind of a conduit between business and the clients that we serve. And I help business to understand what disability in the workplace looks like. I can offer no-cost training to employers if they feel their staff needs to learn a little bit more about that. Or I can be a local resource for business if they have any questions about accommodation. If somebody makes a request and they're not sure how to handle it, I can definitely be that local contact. Or if there's any questions about the ADA. And so that's what I do. I am, like Caleb said, I'm not based in the Gorge, although I'm loving being able to cover it. I cover a 10-county area that's basically runs from the Gorge through Central Oregon, and then most of Southern Oregon is what I serve. So that gives me an interesting perspective because I cover so many diverse areas, but I also see a lot of the same issues cropping up, whether it's a metropolitan area, whether it's a rural area, but I also see the definite distinctions that we have between the places that I serve. And so that's a little bit more about me. And Caleb, if you're ready, we'll take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay.
So vocational rehabilitation has been around since about World War I. So the program was founded after World War I, where we had a lot of soldiers, particularly coming back. And for the first time as a nation, we're really dealing with some of the mental health crises that are coming back, right? Shell shock, PTSD, and a ton of young men trying to get them back to work. So they established vocational rehabilitation as a process to help veterans with disabilities, particularly physical disabilities back then, getting them back into the workforce and helping them with all these skills that they had learned, helping them get back into kind of a normal life, right, back stateside. Throughout the years, that's increased to include a more diverse population. So in the 70s, try to get more accessibility, and then again in the 90s, and then here again just about a decade ago. So they continue to expand because they realize there's a huge need for educating and retraining our workforce on the way. So if we can go to the next slide, Misa. So here recently, over the last year, Oregon passed the law that we are what's called an employment first state, which basically means we believe that all Oregonians have the right and need to work, right, as part of a quality life, gives them social opportunities, gives them meaning, gives them purpose. I think we can all understand that. So the mission here with Oregon VR is to assist Oregonians with disabilities to achieve, maintain, and advance employment and independence, right? And the vision means that every Oregonian with a disability who desires to work is given the means and the opportunity to work, right? So just very broadly, currently between Chris and I, the co-counselor and I, we serve about 80 people in our community who are in plan with us. There's another 20 to 30 who would like to begin working with us, but right now we're just limited on our budget. As you all know, are aware at the state level, lots of things going on with everybody having to do exercises to reduce their budget. But we still do work with 80 people in our community, right? And that's diverse. That's including people with physical disabilities. That includes people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And that includes people with persistent mental health issues. So we include a lot of folks who already are here in our community and have been living here for probably their entire lifetime, right? So let's jump to the next slide, please, Misa. So what is VR, right? It's a big program. We are under ODHS, so the Oregon Department of Human Services. We are a program that people apply for, so it's not an entitlement program like Social Security or SNAP or some of these other benefit programs you might know of. People do need an application. They do need to prove their disability and prove a need that they want to get back to work, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard this name WorkSource, right? And when we think WorkSource, we think what, the unemployment department, or that's where I go, they can help me get my unemployment benefits. But really, WorkSource is a collective of different agencies within ODHS that their goal is to help Oregonians get back to work. And there's people on the human and support side, like I do, helping the individuals. There's people in our employment department helping with resumes and interview classes. But then there's the business development side, Misa and her team going out, talking with local businesses, letting them know about the labor exchange and how they can help bring job seekers in contact with businesses who might not find the talent that they're currently looking for. So the third part, we're a dedicated team of professionals, right? So business coordinators, counselors, job coaches, job developers, people who work and live in the community, people with diverse experiences who want to help other Oregonians get back to work. Does anyone have any questions? I feel like I'm just talking at you all. Please jump in at any point if you have a question or a comment about what's going on. So a little bit of VR myth busting. VR is not an emergency service, right? All services must be previously agreed upon by the counselor and connected to a disability-related barrier. So yeah, somebody wants to work with VR, great. They put in an application, we meet with them, we get an understanding of where they're at, their physical disability, their mental disability, whatever it may be. And then we really spend a long time developing what's called an individualized plan for employment, which understands and takes their disabilities or their needs in account, and then put them together with job developers or our workforce team and try to find a place that accepts and supports their disability. So we're not a entitlement program, but we're a net for those who might be getting overlooked when it comes to employment. Each service is individualized. What is provided to one client might not be appropriate for another. So yeah, we might do small things like provide coaching or training for someone, an associate's degree or a certification. That's something that we can pay for. Sometimes it's just plugging them into mental health counseling or making sure that they're holding their appointments at one community health or one of the other medical providers here. So we do a little bit of case management, we do a little bit of coaching, we do a little bit of networking to find businesses who might be interested in employing an Oregonian that's already been overlooked. So VR does not provide housing, living expenses, or general vehicle maintenance. But like I said, we can help pay for education, for training, for shoes and interview clothes, other upskilling, like I said, training, or even a bus pass here with the CAT bus. Yeah, Phil.
So you mentioned the types of disabilities and included mental disabilities. Would this also include addictions?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yep. So we partner very closely, or we get a portion of the people we support, Mid-Columbia Center for Living, right? We partner closely with them. We partner closely with the County Developmental Disability Program, CLCM, Columbia Living Case Management, right there in downtown The Dalles. It's another source where we get a lot of our referrals and people we work with. And then the work source, the employment department, is another place. Somebody's looking for work. Maybe they were a construction worker in the past. They got a bad back. Now they can't do the things they want to do. We know they have skills. We know they're valuable. We know that they have knowledge that could be useful. So it's taking some time with them and finding, okay, maybe you can't swing a hammer and lift heavy things anymore, but let's find a place that will work for you, that respects your skills and your prior knowledge. So that's kind of how we work with people, I guess, if that makes sense. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll just keep on trucking.
Thank you, Caleb.
Yeah. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, kind of what the process looks like. Anybody can fill out an application for VR. They would then do a sit down with myself or Chris, our co-counselor, for about an hour and a half, getting us understanding of where they're at, get some medical information from them, and get an understanding of what they would like to do for kind of their dream job or their career, long-term career job. Once we gather that information about some of their health or medical records, we determine them eligible. Just so you know, it's not just people with disability, but anyone who receives or is on OHP, anybody who receives SNAP, is on SSDI, all those people automatically qualify. There is a little bit of a process and taking some time before we can work with them, but they do qualify for our services. As I mentioned, once they qualify, they're determined eligible. We will sit down with them and spend a long time developing a plan that really gets to understand and respect who they are, their physical abilities, perhaps their traumas, their work history, and then finding a special place for them to work, right? And we all know that there are people with disabilities in the world, right? Does anybody in the group have an idea about how many Americans what percentage of Americans identify with a disability?
I'll throw out 10%. Is that low?
That's low. Yeah.
I'd go 1/4.
Yeah, I'm thinking in that range.
Yeah, it's about that range, right? It's about 23%, I would say, people identify with a disability in one way or another. So although a lot of people, this may sound scary, there's a good chance we all know somebody with a disability or have somebody in our family with a disability, right? Could be depression, could be anxiety, could be a gastrointestinal issue, could be lots of different things. So although it might sound scary to employers, we already know people. And there's probably people on this call right now with a disability that would qualify and could work with VR. So we're here to help Oregonians, and that looks a lot different for each individualized person. So once they found a job, we continue to work with them for at least 90 days. Once we know they're stabilized, they have everything they need on their job, maybe some training, help work with their supervisor to make sure they get the accommodations they need. And then after 90 days, we congratulate them and they continue on and we close the file. So we do follow up to get information about their employment history for the next year, year and a half. And that goes into our system, right? As you all know, in the state level, we got to keep good records so we can keep our funding too.
Caleb, you might go into this later, but just in case, could you give us some examples of some of the jobs where people are placed?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, we have people working all over. We have people working, of course, in Safeway and Fred Meyer's. We have people working at a local print shop here. We have people working in the past at the Latino Local Alliance. We have people working at Papa Murphy's. We have people with professional going to school. I support 3 different people who are currently enrolled at Columbia Gorge Community College. One wants to be a therapist, right? There's another older gentleman who was a land surveyor for a while, and then one day had a seizure, and he wrecked his car. That totally changed his life. So now he's trying to figure out how can I safely do a job moving forward. So it's not just the lower end jobs. It's not just fast food and janitorial, right? It's also professional jobs, customer service facing jobs, really anywhere in the community you can imagine. Like I said, we have currently 80 people who we currently work with and hundreds more that we have worked with in the last couple of years.
Thank you, Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb, you mentioned an older gentleman. Is there an age limit?
No, so there's no age limit. Without getting too confusing, I do also spend some time in the high schools working with kids who are in high schools who either have a 504 or IEP, so so who have kind of been marked that they might have a disability or some learning disabilities. So I'm working both in the Dalles High School and at the Innovations Academy, the Watonka High School. I spend a couple days a month there because I also support clients who are in high school. But there's no age limit. So literally 16 and above is where we can begin working with people.
14.
And 14, excuse me, sorry, Brittany, 14, thank you. And really at the younger level, it's just kind of helping them understand what their disability means and how the world might treat them and how they can best interact with and adjust to their disability. So it's really individualized based on the person and what their need is. I think we can go to the next slide, Misa.
All right, it's me. Yay.
Perfect.
And so before I start on my slide deck, Caleb, I can't see hands. So if somebody raises a hand to talk, could you let me know if they have a
Absolutely.
question? And then, originally Susanna with OED, with WorkSource, was supposed to have a little bit in this presentation because we really wanted to highlight the fact that VR is a WorkSource partner. Because oftentimes, the demographic that we work with is so small that our work can be siloed and people don't understand that we are a WorkSource partner. We can provide many of the same services that other WorkSource partners can provide, including on-the-job training, so OJTs. I'm sure you guys have heard about those. Right now we're looking into dipping our toe into internships. And so, one of the things that I do is I also work with youth. As a matter of fact, because of the funding constraints, a lot of my work has shifted to more on a youth side because, especially with this administration, the emerging workforce is really something that they're trying to target. And so it's important, since we are reaching out to kids as young as 14, that we help them with self-advocacy so that when they're ready to enter that workforce, they are advocates for what they can do. Because oftentimes, with people with disabilities, there is, we have to do a lot of myth busting because there are those biases that have been ingrained in society about what a disability is and what people with disabilities can and cannot do. So a lot of our work kind of revolves around myth busting. So with the workforce team, the team is for
Misa,
people.
if I
Oh,
may interrupt just briefly, Corliss
sure.
has a question in the chat. If someone is receiving disability income, how much can they work?
Um,
Yes.
and I would say it depends. And part of actually my team is the WIN team. So there benefits people who work with clients to determine what their threshold is and how much they can make without losing that benefit. And so those are services that we can provide, and we actually train other contractors to be able to provide that service in the community as well. So that is something that is very relevant because people don't understand that the services that people get on disability are not necessarily the same benefits that they can get through an employer sponsored benefits package. Oftentimes, the services they are receiving are not ones that are included in those benefits packages. So, for people who do need more intensive service, it's important that they don't lose those services, even though they really, really want to work. So, it's a fine line that we tread, but we do have people that can help figure out what it is that threshold is.
Thank you, Misa.
You're very welcome. And so the workforce team is made up of, I've got 3 more coworkers that are regionally based. So I've got one for Eastern Oregon, myself for kind of Central and Southern, and then we've got 2 others on the other side of the mountains. One covers South Coast all the way to Roseburg, and the other covers the rest of the area in Northwestern Oregon. And so we do very similar things. However, we serve very different demographics. So the work that we do can look very different depending on, who we're serving. We also have one team member who has a statewide focus. And so she focuses on employers that are statewide, have a statewide presence, and so have a footprint in more than one area. She is also our connection to other VR programs nationwide. And so she often attends trainings in different states and brings that information back to the team, because there's a lot of things going on in VR that we can learn from other people that have been in order of selection, which is the wait list that we are currently in. And to explain that a little bit more, as with all funding for human services, vocational rehabilitation has seen we've been actually flat. We've had flat funding since pre-COVID, but we've been serving more and more clients. And so at this point, with the additional cuts that are being seen, we had to figure out how can we continue to serve clients, but say, within the parameters that we have financially. And so we have just, as of last year, we went into what's called order of service, which is it's a wait list. So people that are currently not in plan with a counselor who are seeking VR services, they will be seen for an intake, determined eligibility, but they are put on a wait list. So they aren't able to receive immediate VR services. So what that means is that VR has been relying heavily on our other work source partners, because we don't want to put somebody on a wait list and have them sitting there not doing anything, especially if it's somebody who is wanting to get back into the workforce or get into the workforce. So what we've been doing is, after that initial intake, we send them to our work source partners. We make sure that they get into that labor exchange system. We make sure that our partners are working with them, because the hope is that our work source partners will be able to help them so much that they might not even need our services. Or by the time they're able to get our services, they are already job ready. So they've got that resume in hand, they've got that cover letter, they've done some career exploration. So when VR gets to them, we can hit the ground running, be able to provide the services that only we can provide, and get that person employed quickly. Does anybody have any questions on that?
I don't see any so far, Misa. Thank you.
Okay. And so for me, developing long-term relationships with business is important, because we're not just advocating for one client. We want to build those relationships, have them understand what it is we do, the clients that we serve. And, by placing one client there successfully and keeping that relationship going, it helps clients down the road. So if that makes sense, so we're not looking for just short term, here's my client, I want you to hire them. Where I'm going in, I'm kind of ascertaining what business needs are. It's like, what do you need as a business locally? And then I bring that back to the office and say, I was talking to business. They are planning on expanding in the next 5 years. They're going to be needing this, this, and this. So we should probably be directing people into this training. And then we figure out, okay, does the community college have that training? If not, what other providers have that? Who can we source to get that training from? So my job is, I love it because it's ever changing. And, I never know what I'm going to be called to do at any given time, but I love being that convener to understand what business needs are, bring it to the table, and be able to adapt our services for both our clients and our business. And so, as I'm in community a lot. I'm always trying to uncover employment opportunities. I'm always trying to understand what business needs are, and I'm constantly collaborating with other workforce partners. Susanna and I work very closely together. Oftentimes, we'll do employer outreach together because we believe that even if I don't have a client that might fit a business need, I work with so many other partners that may have a client that does. So why would I not give that information, share that information to my other workforce partners? Because we ideally want to be able to help business. And so if I don't have a client, Susanna might have a client, or somebody else from CGCC might have a client that they're working with. So it's collaborating and working with our workforce partners to make sure business need is met and client need is met.
Misa, it looks like the slides dropped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're not
I
seeing
don't see the
anything?
slides. Maybe it's just me.
I can still see him.
I see him. Yeah.
You
Okay.
see him? Okay. That's just me then. And
Okay.
Mike has a question.
Sure, go ahead.
How do you get your clients? How do you?
For me, I don't actively, I'm not the one that's meeting with clients, doing intakes and drawing up the plan. So I'm kind of a consultant. So when a vocational rehabilitation counselor is working with a client and they have questions perhaps about the labor market, they'll call me in to do like a labor market report. Or if they have questions about whether a vocation might be suitable if it's growing or if this is one that's on the decline, because with the advent of AI, we're seeing a lot of shifts in different areas. So areas that we would normally have, be absolutely okay with funding may not necessarily be the best use of, taxpayer money to put somebody through that training. So I'm called in for a lot of that. If somebody, especially on the youth side, if a youth is interested in learning more about a company or what a particular occupation does, I reach out to employers to set up informational interviews. I can do industry tours so that either singularly or in groups, we can have youth go in and kind of check out what that looks like. And so any of those work-based learning opportunities are fantastic, and not just for youth, but for adults as well. And then I provide, like I said before, training on disability at work, and that's customized to what the employer need is. It could be virtual, in person, any size group, various topics. We also put on as a team, we put on what's called a Lunch and Learn series for business, and the topics are often, have to do with disability. So what kind of accommodations there are, or adaptive technology, what things are changing in the world of disability related to business services. So we do those, and that's every other month. If you're interested in being on the distribution list for that, just reach out to me and I can get you on it. Lots of really great topics. And then, I can be a consultant. I've had businesses reach out to me saying, I just hired somebody who has blah, 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 blah. And, we did the accommodation, but it doesn't seem like it's the best kind of accommodation. So, I talk with my VRCs, with Courtney. Courtney is a great resource. She's an amazing manager to Caleb. She's not my direct supervisor, but I love working with her. And so, we can be that resource. And so I do a lot of consultation with business. And then just resources. I know there's so much going on in the world of disability. There are so many different entities that deal with very specific subtopics that it's very confusing for businesses. You know, they're busy working their business. They don't have time to try to figure out who do I need to contact. So I can be that local contact. I can make those referrals to the specific organizations that a business might need to contact for whatever reason.
So,
Looks
or is it Misa?
Yes.
Language is a barrier, and I'm thinking this isn't locally, but I have some Venezuelan friends who only speak Spanish. This was in another city, and they have basically a Spanish-speaking team within their Home Depot. It's so do you learn language? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great question because, you know, prior to coming aboard with VR, I worked for OED and we always had bilingual staff. You know, we're looking for bilingual staff. We have bilingual staff in other parts of Oregon. Right now, we don't have any bilingual staff. Although Anna is
mhm.
bilingual. But as a state agency, we have access to translation resources that we use, and so we're able to accommodate a lot of languages via those resources that are state provided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do recognize that, right? Our community, as you all know, Hood River and Wasco County, it's about 30% Hispanic, right? There is a huge need for that due to just the demographic of where we live. So we can absolutely accommodate to that, and we bring in translators. We have community partners who also have bilingual speakers, so we can definitely accommodate. So send them our way.
Having Spanish language employees is a benefit to a business, definitely.
Absolutely.
All right, and then I made this slide just to show how many partners we work with. I mean, we work with a lot of partners, not just our work source partners, but we also work with our sister partner, Oregon Commission for the Blind. And so in the state of Oregon, Oregon Commission for the Blind is its separate entity from VR. So they can offer all of the services that VR can, but their primary client are those with visual impairments. And so we work with our workforce boards. I sit on, you know, multiple panels and teams that work not only with business but other local leadership. We work with the Veterans Administration because they also have a VR program. Theirs is quite a bit more robust as far as dollars wise, but there are instances where we can work together. We work together with tribal partners. We have tribal partners that also have their own VR programs. So we work with them. Sometimes we refer to them and clients only work with them. Sometimes they can work with both of us because we offer very different services from tribal partners. So oftentimes, if we collaborate with them, we're able to offer a broader spectrum of service to a client. We work with, you know, Caleb had said our job placement contractors. And so the folks that I work with primarily are seeking competitive integrated employment. Here in the state, we have lots and lots of acronyms and different words that businesses are like, what does that mean? And so the people that I serve typically are ones that don't need a lot of extra support in the workplace. But sometimes we have folks, especially people with intellectual or developmental disabilities, that may need a little bit what we call supported employment. So a little bit more support in that employment environment. And oftentimes we have job placement contractors that VR contracts with that can provide those additional services. And sometimes that looks like job coaching. So sometimes we'll go into business and say, we have this client who requires a job coach. And so a job coach is basically there to provide assistance to that person until they learn their job. Sometimes it can be short term, sometimes it can be long term, but it's somebody that's working for the client, not the business. And it's just to get them started. So it's that extra additional support that somebody might need. So that's oftentimes what our job placement contractors are contracted to do, to just provide those longer term services, because as Caleb had said, VR is a short-term program. And then we work with economic development. It's important for me to understand what new businesses are coming into the area, what are their needs, and so then I can collaborate with other work source partners to help to see if we can help with recruitment or any other needs that those businesses might have. So we are out and about. We do a lot of good work with a lot of really good partners.
I see that Trish has a note of applause for her
Yeah,
experience in the chat box.
so glad to hear that, Trish. Thank you. Um, I guess just to wrap up, Misa, right? I think if I were to say that there was three things I would love people to know from this is that one, there's people in our community that experience or have a disability. They may or may not be working, right? Number two, not everybody wants full time. I think as business owners and people who always are thinking most efficiently and best economic practices, that not everybody needs full time. Please remember that, right? People would be happy to work part time or not totally consistent schedules. And then I guess the last thing is that we can recruit talent for you. That's what Misa's team does, right? If anybody's tried to find a job on Indeed or LinkedIn anymore, it's garbage compared to what it was a few years ago. But there are still businesses in our community who need help getting the word out there that there have open positions. Misa and her team can help out with that. So we can help recruit talent. Not everybody wants full time. And yes, there's people in our community that have a disability. So thank you all for letting us
Oh,
come
I
and
have something
talk
else to
today.
say.
Yeah.
It's super important. If there's one thing I would want to say to business, it's think outside of the box. The biggest struggle I have with business is that they have a very set mindset. Business has been used to having a plethora of people to pick from as far as recruitment, and they don't understand that there's an amazing amount of talent out there that has been underutilized, and it's just waiting to be recognized. But that can mean thinking outside of the box. It could mean, instead of maybe one full-time benefited position, how about two part-time positions that may not need benefits? So in the end, the business is actually making money because they don't have to support that benefit package. Or just simple accommodations. Most accommodations cost nothing, and then those that do cost are typically under $300. And oftentimes, if a client is working with VR may be able to help with that accommodation. So these are all things that I like people to understand. It's thinking outside of the box. Job carves. Maybe a business has a position, because oftentimes businesses are running as lean as they can get. So you've got somebody working that should be doing higher level work, but is bogged down with kind of small tasks like filing or something like that. That's detracting from the higher level work that they need to be doing. How about working with us to do a job carve where you create a part-time position that could even be like 8 hours a week, and that person will do all those lower level tasks that are preventing that other person from doing those higher level tasks. So there's a lot of different outside of the box thinking that VR can bring to the table that would be beneficial to business.
So I think I would have a follow-up question on that. Is there an expectation on the part of the business, though, that the job have some continuity, some longevity to it? Do you encounter situations where company will bring on someone only for a short time and then the person is back on
Um,
a job?
Well, as a WIOA partner, one of the metrics we're measured on is how long somebody is employed with an employer and employer satisfaction. So for VR, we really want somebody to maintain employment for as long as they can. However, short-term temporary positions are are useful to us because oftentimes, we have a client who, because of their disability, may have not have been in the workforce for a while. So those temporary or part-time positions allow them to kind of dip their toe, get back in, get into the rhythm of it before going on to full-time work. So at VR, we can use a little of everything. We're very flexible. And one of the things we like to say in VR is it depends. We operate in the gray a lot because our services are so personalized to the individual. So, unlike some of our workforce partners that they have very specific demands, we're very flexible and we like to work with business to make sure that their needs are being met, but also our clients.
I know you'd had several references to the college here and the college, I believe, is a WIOA partner. I don't know if that's the proper way to characterize that.
Yeah.
Workforce
A
Innovation.
WIOA partner, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the Small Business Development Center, I believe has customized training, or it might be a different program through the college. Are you familiar with that? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's also somebody, a VR participant, if they want to start their own business. Um, that could be a recycling company, but that also could be like a hairstylist, right? That is also qualifying as starting your own business. And then we would go with them and work with them at the Small Business Development Center, help create a business plan, and help try to make that happen. For them. So VR can do a lot. That might be a small job, like Misa said. As I referenced earlier, I helped a guy get a job in a print shop there in the Dalles. He works 2 hours a week. Okay, that's not a ton, but there's also people who are working a full 40-hour shift at Cardinal Glass right now. So it can look a lot different just depending on who they are, what their skills are, what their abilities are. And we love the challenge. If Misa didn't say that, I love the challenge. So send them our way. We'd be happy to work with them.
I love the enthusiasm both of you bring to this. This is cool. It's a good way to start the day.
Awesome.
Questions for Misa and for Caleb.
Yeah. Well, just thank you then, I guess, Dan. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
I think I started working for the state a few months ago, and I know in the past I always thought, oh, state workers are boring and dry, and they always follow all these rules. But we're here, we're in the community, we're approachable. Hopefully, we're not too dry and boring. And thank you all for what you do, right? As I referenced earlier, I grew up in a small town. Putting on events, having parades, having things where the community can come together is so important to knocking down barriers in our own lives and just getting to know one another because there's a lot of overlap in our small community. So thank you for what you do and thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb, very much. Hey, one other question occurred to me. Gorge Technology Alliance, are you in touch with them?
I actually had
Networking.
just reached out for myself because I'm fairly new at covering the gorge because I've only just been working with the gorge since late last year. And so I've reached out to them. I'm on their mailing lists, and my intent is to insinuate myself into that as much as I can. Because we are having a youth expo in February. February 25th is going to be our Wasco and Hood Youth Expo for our pre-employment transition students. And so our focus for the panel is going to be advanced manufacturing avionics. So I am targeting a lot of those members of that tech group. So yeah, and
Fantastic.
so we are looking for employers and people to do mock interviewing for that. So if anyone's interested or knows anybody who would be interested, let me know.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Misa. Thank you, Caleb. On behalf of Vocational Rehab, great presentation and information. And of course, all of this recorded. It's on the chamber website, so people will be tuning in later. Sometimes the newspaper will come in, do a follow-up story. So we appreciate it. I do have a few announcements on behalf of the chamber. All of this is from the Community Connector e-blast. If you don't receive that, please sign up for it. It's a great resource. Pink Friday, November 21st. This is a shop local focus. Talk about if you'd like to participate, retailers, other businesses. We have a deadline coming up pretty quickly for the e-blast. It's at 9 o'clock this morning. So move quickly on that one. The Chamber is partnered with Salvation Army and St. Vincent's for community-wide collection drive to help local families in need. Drop-off donations are at multiple locations listed on the Community Connector e-blast. Barrels are available, collection barrels through December 11th, looking for non-perishable foods, gently used coats, hats, and gloves, unwrapped toys for all ages. The Angel Tree through Salvation Army is coming up. Unwrapped gifts with tabs should be returned to the Salvation Army by December 16th. Tree locations at Brick City, Columbia Bank, Spookies, the Dallas Athletic Club, and WaFed. Community, what is it, the 36th? It's been going on for decades. The free annual community meal, Thursday, November 27th, noon to 3 p.m. at St. Mary's Academy. Delivery orders are possible, so if you'd like to learn more or volunteer, visit thedalles.salvationarmy.org. That's the website there. And the Starlight Parade, that's the 36th annual. I knew there was a 36th annual coming up on something. An ode to Dr. Seuss, the lights, the sights, the parade tonight. Starts 6 p.m. on the 27th, 28th. Yeah. Followed by tree lighting. Sign up deadline this Friday. And with that, thank you all for participating again in community affairs. And we will see you not next week, because that's not going to take place on Thanksgiving, but on the following, on December 4th. And I believe we're still looking for someone on that one. On December 11th, it's going to be Mid-Columbia Housing Authority with Karen Long. So again, have a good weekend, everyone, the rest of your week, and take care. Bye now.